So guys, this is Precious here and a continuation from where we stopped previously. Right now we will be talking about JavaScript essentials, and the first thing here is variables. What are variables? Variables are containers for storing any data and they hold any data type. JavaScript variables can be declared in four ways. The first way is automatically. The second way is using var. VAR was used from 1995 to 2015 and it has a global scope. The third way is using let, which is recommended now, which has a block scope. And the fourth way is using const, which cannot be changed. Okay, so let's go in and see how we can create some JavaScript variables. So I'm going to open up my editor now. And I'm going to create a new file called 003 variables.html. And I can copy everything I have in outputs and bring it here. First, I will change the title to JavaScript variables. And I will delete everything I have inside of the script tag. Remember guys, if you don't want your script tag inside of your HTML file, you can create another file, called variables.js and import it here. But just because I don't want everything to be clustered, I would be creating the scripts right here. So we say we can create a JavaScript file. We can create JavaScript variables automatically. So let's see this in action. The first way is automatically. Remember I said that. And what does that mean? It means that you create the variables without using any keyword. So when you say something like x is equal to 5, or you say y is equals to 8, or you say something like z is equals to y plus 8, what you've done is you've created the variables automatically. Okay, the next way to create variables is by using the var keyword. And how do you do that? It's almost similar to automatic way, except that we would be using the var keyword. So if I comment everything we have in automatic and I say var x is equal to 9. Okay, can you see now I'm using the var keyword? Var y is equal to 10. Var z is equal to y plus x, or x plus y. So as you can see, what I've done here is I've used the var keyword, like I said here, using var to create my variables. The third way rather, is using the let, which I recommend, which JavaScript recommends now, which is better than var. So let's say using let keyword, and we will do the same thing. All we will now use is let x equal to 6 and let y equal to 9. So the thing with the let keyword is that when you use let, your variable has a block scope. So we'll talk about scope in a future video, but for now just understand that you have a block scope when you use your let. And list is the const keyword. So when you create a variable with the const keyword, this variable cannot be changed. It becomes a constant. So just see the word const as a constant. Okay, see the word const as a constant. And what do we do with that? Simple guys. We say const x is equal to 7, const y is equal to 9. So you see, when you create a variable with const, you cannot change the value anymore because it is now a constant, and a constant, the value of a constant cannot be changed. Okay, you can't edit a constant. So you may be wondering, when do you use var, lat, let, or const? The first thing first is always know that you will declare a variable when you are programming. Two, if you know that the value of the variable will not change, okay? If you know the value, okay, so let me even write this down. If variable value will not change, use const, okay? If the type, like if the data type of the variable, if data type will not change, use const. So especially in arrays and objects, use const. You can also use let. If you do not want to use const, then use let. Okay, so most times you will use let or you will use const. Aside that, you can eventually ignore var because var is now outdated. Okay guys, so please, if you will not use const, use let, but please avoid the usage of var. All right guys, so something else you need to know: when creating JavaScript variables, it is important that you use unique names. You see what I've done here? I use X, I use Y, but those are not descriptive. So imagine I want to talk about someone's age. It's better to say, let age, okay, of Precious. You see the way I write it in camel case is equals to 70, okay? Something like let country name is equal to, so you put that because it's a string, Nigeria. Don't worry, we'll talk about string in the next video. But what I want you to see here is when you are writing variables, ensure that you use camel case, okay? And ensure that it is descriptive. People can understand what you are saying by looking at your variable names. Okay, so right here, you know that this is the age of Precious, 70. This is country name, Nigeria. Okay, and there are some reserved words, so you have to avoid reserved words. Like const is a reserved word, let is a reserved word, var is a reserved word, so you don't use those ones in your variables. And the next thing you want to understand now is the assignment operator. This equal to is an assignment operator. It is assigning the value 70 to this variable age of Precious. So look at variables as buckets. They are buckets in which you put your variable, so they hold the values. Okay, equal to is not like it is in maths. In JavaScript, it is for assigning variables. Take note of that. Take note of that. Okay. So now that we are done with this, the next thing we will be talking about is what we define as JavaScript data types. So let's go in there and see. So remember, I said when you are naming your variable, start with lowercase, be descriptive, and try to ensure that you're not using spaces. The next thing we'll be talking about here, guys, is JavaScript data types. And in JavaScript, we have 8 data types. The first one is what we call string. Okay. The second one is what we call number. The third one is what we call big int. The fourth one is what we call boolean. The fifth data type in JavaScript is called undefined. The sixth one is called null. The seventh data type is called symbol. And the eighth data type is called object. In objects, we have some sub data types. So under object, you have object itself, you have array, or it could be date. Those are types of objects. All right. So now that we've talking about them, let me explain the concept of data types. So data types are important because they allow you to be able to operate on variables. So if you don't know your data types, you can't use variables because you won't be able to manipulate your data and do stuff with your variables. So that is where data types come in. Data types help you to change things around. Now, talking about data types, let's talk about the very first one. The first data type we'll be talking about here is string. So JavaScript essentials, data types, and right here we have the data type called string. Now let's talk about string. Strings are for storing text. Okay, so strings are a sequence of characters. Strings are not immutable, you cannot change them. But strings are immutable, okay, but strings cannot be changed. So immutable means that you cannot really change their values around when you create them. That means you cannot change them, but they can be replaced because you can manipulate them, which we'll talk in a subsequent video. But right now, understand that strings can be written in 3 ways in JavaScript. The first one is using quotes. So when you use quotes, you can use number 1, single quotes, or you can use double quotes. But note that strings created with single or double quotes, they still work the same way. There is no difference between the two. The only difference is the quote type that you're using, single or double. The third way is backticks. Backticks is what we call template literals. So guys, does it seem like we're talking too much? Let's get to our program. Right here, I'm going to copy everything we have here. I'm going to create a new file and I will call this 004 strings.html. And I will paste everything I copied because I would like to use it. So I'll change the title here to strings. And I will delete everything I have inside of the script. I will also repeat again, okay? If you don't want to do it the way I'm doing it, all you can do is create a new file called strings.js and import the file right here. If you create the file to import it, all you need to do is just src is equal to, so I have 001 intro.js now, okay? So that's all you need to do to import a file that you've created. But for simplicity, I will work with the scripts right inside here. So let's begin, guys. Let's create some variables. The first one I would create, I will call it let first. So remember indentation. Let first name is equal to, for this one I will use single quotes, precious. Precious is a string, so for it to be a string you have to put it in quotes, okay? But now I've used single quotes. Let's use double quotes for the second one. Let last name equal to, now I'm using double quotes, so I'm going to use my surname now. Can you see the difference? Okay, now let's do a last one. Let bio. Remember we said template literal. So to create a variable with template literal, you use what we call backtick. So backtick is on your keyboard, is like a single quote that is bent. Okay, so it's mostly before the letter 1 on your keyboard. So you remember the letter 1, sorry, the number 1 key on your keyboard. Just before it, you can find backtick. And why is backtick good? Backtick allows you to write a long text. Okay, so I can say something like, I am a programmer from Nigeria in Africa. I can drop it down, I can keep writing. Okay, I just use tab. I love JavaScript and PHP, but there is nothing I love more than teaching. So now let's see what we have. we can use console.log to output these values. Console.log what? Let's output first name. Okay, the variable first name. Now let's go to our browser to check this out. So string, and I'm going to inspect so we can see it. I'll go to console. If you see my console now, I hope you can see it. I have Precious here now. And this is because this is what I output from my code. I can output the other one, last name. Save this and let's reload the page and let's see what we have on our console. And you can see my last name is showing here, Iriaevho. What about the backtick value? Let's see. So we are outputting what? Bio. As you can see, it says, I am a programmer from Nigeria in Africa. I love JavaScript and PHP, but there is nothing I love more than teaching. So you see, we've been able to create our script. We've been able to create our string using the three types of ways to create a string. Okay, now let's proceed. You're going to run into an issue. And what is the issue? Let me comment this out. What if what you want to write in your single quote has a double quote? Okay, let's say something like let's question 1 is equal to or let's say test. Let test 1 equal to he is called Precious. If you look at what I've done here, this is wrong. Why? Because JavaScript will start from this first double quote and end in this last double quote. It's going to ignore every other thing. If you want to use a quote inside of a quote, if you start with a double quote, then ensure that you use a single quote inside. So I'm putting Precious inside of single quotes. Now this will work. We can also change it around. What if we start with single quotes? So test 2, I start with single quotes. That means what I have inside here should be double quotes. And I will end with single quotes. Pause the video, guys, and look at the difference with what I've done here. And you would understand this. So let me put the heading here. Using quotes in quotes with strings. And the problem we have here already is the reason why we had template literal, because with template literal, you can use quotes as much as you like. Okay, you can use double quotes, you can use single quotes, and there will be no problem. So with template literal, you don't have any problem. Something like this. Let me show you an example. Let's say test 3. Okay. See, so I'm going to use template literal. Open and close. And I'm going to use different strings. Different quotes. Is often called, that's double quotes now, Precious. And this will work fine. This will work fine because template literal gives you the flexibility to move around. Okay, so it's good to take note of that. If we reload our page now, let's see what we have there. And as you can see, it's often called Precious. Template literal makes your life easy. So, but if you want to use quotes and you want to have a quote inside, please take note of what I've done above. I'm taking my time to explain this a lot because you need to understand this. Let's proceed, guys. So, also you can escape characters. So with what we have above here, what if we want to still use a quote in quotes? It's easy. You have to escape it. So let's copy what we have here from test. So let me just bring this down and I'll call this escaping characters. Okay. Now we have test. Let me say tests 4. And we still want to use quotes in quotes, double quote, you can escape it by using the backslash. Okay, escape this and escape this. And as you can see, JavaScript, we have no problem with it. If I output test 4 now, let's see what we have on our screen. Check my console. You see, it is called Precious, working very fine. And it's working the same way as test 2 will work. If I reload test 2, let's see, the same thing is called Precious. So backslash are very, very important. You can use it to escape as much as you want. If I want to escape, let's say, if I want to forward a backslash 2, I can escape this. Okay. If I want a single quote, I can escape it. All right. And if I want a new line, I can do this. So let's see what we have on our console, test 4. Please, I may be sounding very fast, but just if you want to rewind the video, do that, but just calm down and you would understand everything I'm saying. If I reload the page, you can see I have it's called Precious, and I have a backslash because I escaped it, and I have a quote because I escaped it. All right. So we finish on string, but you can see that there is more to working with strings. Okay, there's more to working with strings. And also you can break new lines like you saw I did with template literals. You can use template literals to break up new lines and you have new values. Okay guys, something else you need to know also is that you can add up strings. When I mean add up strings, it means concatenating. So let me say concatenating. So let's say I want to concatenate my first name and my last name. All you need to do is console log, then you say plus. So I will say first name plus last name. First name plus last name. So it's like adding strings, and let's see what we have. You can see I have Precious Iriaevho. If I want a space in between, that's very simple. I'm also going to concatenate that. So I will say plus, then in the middle, I can put a quote and put a space in between. And if I reload this page, you can see I now have a space in between my value. All right. So this is it on string. And let's do a quick recap on what we said about strings. The first thing first, let's go back to our browser. I said strings are for storing text and they are a sequence of characters. You can see all these are characters. PRECIOUS are characters and they are in sequence. Okay? They cannot be changed, but they can be replaced, and strings can be written in single quotes, double quotes, or backticks, which is also known as template literal, which we did here. Single quotes, double quotes, and backticks. Okay? So let's go back. The next thing we would be talking about is what? String methods. So now we've seen strings in action. We know how to create strings, right? You can create JavaScript variables that hold strings. The next thing we want to talk about now is the string methods. So with strings, there are some different methods that you can use to, manipulate them. Remember, we said that strings can be manipulated. So let's go in there and start manipulating our strings. I will create a new file and I will call this 005 string methods.html. Paste this and change this also to string methods. So what are methods? Methods are like functions, but these are built in already. These were created by JavaScript for you, so you don't have to create them. All you need to do is to use them. And what exactly are we going to be doing? We are going to be using these functions. So first things first, let's create some tests or strings. Let's test1, because we'll create some other tests, is equal to. So what are we going to be creating? Let's use my name again. You can use your name. Precious. Okay. The first JavaScript method I want us to look at here is what we call length. So what will length do? Length is going to return the length of the string. That's simple. It's going to count everything for you. Let's not talk too much. Let's do it. So console.log, that is, I want to console the result on the log. And what am I consoling? Test1. Test1 is the variable name. But when you put a dot, you now have access to some methods. And the method we want to use here is lemgth. So we want to check the length of this test. If I go to my browser and I open up the string method file, I close the string, this one here, and I click on inspect. Let's see what we have on the console. We have 8 on the console. Can we verify if that is true? So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's correct. JavaScript has gone in to count everything here for you. If you doubt, I'm going to create a longer string. I will say JavaScript is a great language, and I'll call this test2. And now we can also check the length. So it's also going to count the space. So let's reload and see. So we are checking the length of test2. That's why we have test2.length. If I reload this, you can see it's 30. But sadly, guys, I'm not going to count with you. So count it, and if this is incorrect, tell me. Then we'll probably sue JavaScript for misdirecting us. Now let's proceed. So I'm going to write this just above. I will call this length. Okay. Now, we can also extract strings. And how do we extract strings? Let's see. So I'll call this extracting strings. Okay. That is string characters. So you extract characters from string. So let's call it string character. So we want to be getting 1 characters out of what we have. So how do we extract a character? The first one we can use is called char at. So let's say I want to get C, this C from Precious. Let's try it out. Remember console.log. Then from Precious, that is test1. The variable holding Precious is test1. Then from test1, I want to get the character at what? So let me just explain something quickly. JavaScript has what we call index, like every other programming language. When it comes to index, you don't start counting from 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. Instead, you start counting from 0. So this one now is 0. P is at index 0. Arrow is at index 1. E is at index 2. And C is at index 3. Let's confirm. 3. And let's see what we have on our console. It says undefined. And why is that? Is because of the bracket that I used. So I'm going to use the correct bracket. The coily one. Not the coily one, but the round one. So index char at index 3. Let's see what we have now. C. You can see we have C there. C. So like I said, you will be thinking, but this is C is at number 4. Why are we using 3 to access it? Because JavaScript starts counting from 0. Except when you want to check length, it will count it very well from 1. But any other thing, it will start counting from 0 using index 0. So if we want to get S at the back, S will be at what? Index 7. Let's confirm. s. So what if we go out of scope? We say 8. You know we don't have index 8. What will JavaScript say? Nothing, because there is nothing at that index. So let's just leave this at index 7. Also, there is another one called char code art. So char code art, let me drop this. Let me comment this out. Char code art 7. Simple. Let's see it before I explain it. You may understand it. So 115. So it doesn't return the character. It returns the code of the character. So the code of S is 115 in alphabet. Okay, it's called ASCII code. So the ASCII code of S is 115. The ASCII code of C is what? 99. So what we're doing here is we're using this to check for the code, not the character anymore. The character code at index 3. So let's go. So we also have art. And what does art do for us? It's a new string method, and it works almost similar to char art. So let's see it in action. So art, so test1 art. Let's try 0 first. And let's reload. You can see P is similar to char art. If I put in 7, 7 is, remember, is S from precious. That's S. But also with this guy, you can also change the brackets to square brackets. This was why I wanted to show you then, so that you can see that this is one of the difference with char art, the brackets you can use. If we reload, it's still undefined. Okay, it's still undefined. So I just wanted you to see that there is something else you can do. But this is it. And what can you do? You can remove art. Okay, because JavaScript is looking at this string like an array in the background. So if we do this at index test1 index 7, let's see if we can access it. And as you can see, we can access it. So now you see we have 4 ways of accessing characters in a string. Okay, if everything looks confusing, pause the video and go back again. Let's proceed. The next one, or the next we want to check, is extracting string parts. How do you extract parts of strings? We have slice, substr, and substring. Let's put this in action. For this, we will use test2. So I'll call this extracting strings. Extracting strings. The first one in extracting strings is, that would be slice. So when you're using slice, how do you use slice? Slice extracts a part of a string and return the extracted part in a new string. So remember, we have test2 here. JavaScript is a great language. Let's extract part of it, okay? And how do we do that? Let's part1, because we will get a new string, okay? So how do we extract? We use what we've learned with index. So I want to extract from test2. I want to extract, let's say, language. So we say test2 dot slice. This one will take parameters, okay? So we'll send in arguments. So what are we checking for now? The first parameter is your start position and the end position. Okay, remember, JavaScript, everything here is 30. The length is 30, but we are using index, remember. So let's count. Now we are going to count. So from JavaScript is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You see, I counted wrongly. We have to start from 0. Index 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we are starting at index 21 and we are ending at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. 29. Let's see if we are correct. So console.log, let's log part 1 because that's what we extracted, right? We sliced it out. Let's reload this. You can see we have language. So take notes, our counting was wrong. So the last one there should be 30. So if we reload, you see, we just extracted language from this one. JavaScript is a great language and we extracted just language using slice. Let me put this in brackets. This is language. Okay. The next thing is we can also use the other one called substring. But before we get there, with slice, what if we did not give a ending value? So let's say part 2 is equal to test2 dot slice and we only pass in one value. Let's say the value we passed is let's use, so we had here as 21, here was 21, this is 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. So let's assume we pass 15. JavaScript will count till 15 and extract everything after. Okay, so let's check part 2, console log part 2. So I'm extracting from index 15 and let's check. You can see it started from grades and it took language with it. Okay, also there is a negative index. So if you use negative, it's going to start counting from the back. So let's say part 3 is equal to test2 dot slice, let's say minus 21. So let me just put the result of this slice here. This one is going to give us great language. Let's see what part 3 is going to give us with minus 21. So you see, it will start counting from the back. Okay, so it will start counting as 0, 1, 2. Let me do it from here. It will start counting from here 0, 1, 2 down to 21 and it will extract everything and give it to you. So you see, you can use negative index. Now, the next thing we want to check is substring. Okay, so as the heading here, this was slice. Now let's check substring. Substring is similar to slice. The difference is that the start and end values less than 0 are treated as 0. That is, in substring, you can't use negative. Okay, so let's just check substring. So let's part 4. Very similar. But first, let's check a negative value. So test2 dot substring, let's say minus 20. Let's just say minus 20. And let's see what we have in part 4. You can see it didn't count, even with the negative. You see, let me put 21. With slice, we had this as the result when we used the negative 21. This was it. That was the result. But with substring sees every negative as 0, so you start counting from that. Okay, so you cannot use negative with substring. but you can also still use the same thing. So if I use 21 to 30, so let me just put this here. It's going to give us everything again if you have a negative value for substring. So duplicate that and let's call this one part 5. I'm not deleting them so that you can always, redo them. And let's copy what we have, 21 to 30. Let's see if it will work exactly like slice. Remember I said it will work like slice, and the result should be what? The result should be language. So part 5. If I reload this, you can see exactly like slice. The next one is substring, or SUBSTR. The difference is that the second parameter specifies the length of the extracted character. So SU sub str works like slice, but the difference is, unlike slice whereby this second value is the last index, for SUBSTR it's going to be the length of what you want to cut. So let's use what we have here again, the one with language, and let's call this part 6, and I say SU substr, I can't pronounce it, okay? Now if I say 21 and 30 the way we had it before, will this work? Seriously, I don't know. Well, I know, but let's see it together. Let's reload the page. You can see 30 is very long, so it covered everything and more. But what if we go back and say 6? Okay, 21, 6. Let's see. You can see what it did. It started counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. So what do we have? We have langu. So I think I have a space here somewhere. So you see, it collected the space. Let me change the index, maybe 22. Good. Good. So langua, no space, so we can see everything. Langua, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what does this mean? I told it to go to index 22 and extract 6 characters for me. That's it. Go to index 22 and extract 6 characters. So that is SUBSTR for you. The next thing we want to check is, for string method, is case conversion. So let's work with case conversion real quick. This is a long video, but it is essential that we understand all this. So case conversion. In case conversion, we can change things from upper to lower and lower to upper. And this is very straightforward, very, very straightforward. So let's get to it. I would say let part 7. So let me move upward. Part 7. And to change it to uppercase, we use test2 again. So let's change everything to lowercase first, or to uppercase, whichever comes first. To upper case, okay, and I will do the same thing to part 8. So let's just do the 2 at the same time, and I will just change this to lowercase. It's as simple as that. So let's console log both of them, 7 and console log 8. Reload. Oh, we have a problem somewhere, so let's check. So to uppercase and to lowercase, console.log. Let's see. So this is debugging in action. Oh, sorry. I had another ER there, so sorry, spelling error. So it told me already, it said uncut type error, test2, lower rara, but there's nothing like lower rara, okay? So let's reload. And as you can see, the first one, uppercase, changes everything to JavaScript is a great language in uppercase, and to lowercase changes everything. JavaScript is a great language. It changes everything to lowercase. It's as simple as that, straightforward. The next one we want to check is concat. Okay, and how does concat work? Let's see. So let's create another test. Let me just call this test 3, or let me create it here. I don't want confusion for my people, that is you. Is equal to test 3 is equals to Nigerian. Okay, good. So we have test 1 precious, test 2 JavaScript is a great language, and that. Now, so concat. How does concat work? Simple. Simple. It works the same way like what we did when we were adding strings. Okay? So let's do it first. Let's do the first one. The first one will be, I would say, part 9. So let part 9, I want to show you something first, is equal to, so part 9 is going to be, I want to concatenate test 1. So test 1, you know what? I'm not going to go up there. I'm just going to do it here. I'm going to do it here. So let's just create new stuff. So I can say, hello plus, remember that, right? Plus word. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating strings, okay? So let's check it and see what we have. So with this way, we understand concat easily. So instead of writing like this, let's see what we have on console. Hello world, right? We have it. But with concat, you can do the same thing. Let's do that. So let part 10 is equal to, and what do we want to concat? We can say hello, then dot. So instead of using plus, concat, and we want to use what to concatenate? Space. And what do we want to concatenate? Word. Okay, so let's console log part 9, and you can see the same thing but written with different ways. So instead of using plus and all this, you can use concat to do it too. Let's see what we have if they are similar. You see, we have the same thing, hello world, and we've used concat to do that. Okay, so guys, let's proceed. The next one we'll be talking about is trim and pad. So let's come down here. Trim. For trim, let's create new variables. Okay, or let's do it the way we want to do it. We can console this directly. Console.log. But I don't want to do that. I always want to create a variable. I want you to be used to it. Part 11. If you notice, I don't use the same variable name. I started from part 1. I'm in part 11 now. So take note. So if we have something like this, somebody just typed this in our input. He said, hello, precious, with more space. You don't want to put this in your database like that. Okay? Trim is going to do this for you. All right? Trim is going to do this for you. And how will trim do that? So let's just call this, test 4. I'm creating a new variable here. To trim, all you need to do is let part 11 is equal to, you say trim. Trim is going to remove all the space. All right? It will remove all the space. But before I use only trim, I want to show you something. Trim, okay, for test 4. Okay, let's do that one first. So, sorry, wrong way. So test 4 dot trim. Simple. But it also have 2 others. It has trim stats. Okay, It has trim start and trim end. So I'm going to do the 3 of them. So part 12 will be trim start. Part 13 will be trim end. So let's console log the 3 of them so that you will see the difference. So part 11, part 12, part 13. Take note, what we are working with is test 4, hello precious, but there's a lot of space before and a lot of space after. The first console log is only trim, the second one is trim start, and the third one is trim end. So let's check this. Reload. And you can see what has happened. The normal trim, I'm trying to highlight. Can you see what's happening here? It removed all the space before and all the space after. But trim start remove all the space before, but it left all the space after. You can see I can highlight to the end. Then trim end remove all the space at the end, but it left all the ones at the beginning. That's just the difference. Let's go on. The next thing I want to show you is called pad. And pad can be used to substitute characters. So instead of all those space, you can use pad to add characters to something. So let's see pad in action. We are going to use test1 for this precious, okay? That's the variable we'll be using. So let's create it. Let's say, let's part 12, okay? So sorry, part 14. We are in 13 already. Part 14 is equal to what? So we can do pad start, okay? We can do pad start and pad end. And how do we do that? It's still the same way. So let part 14, but before that, let me do only pad. Let's see if it works. Let's act like we don't know what's happening. Test1 dot pad. But you see, you can't use only pad. So you have pad end. So where do you want it, at the end or at the start? So at the, let's do start first. Start. And what do we want to pad to the starting? Let's say we want to pad, what do we want to pad? We can pad anything. I want to put star. So let's say we want to put star or x. So we say pad start at what index, or how many do you want? I want 10. 10 of what? 10 star from the starting. Then for part 15, for pad end, I want 10 hash. Let's use hash for this so that you can see the difference. So now let's console log. So console log part 14 and 15. So this is supposed to be a string, sorry, so I have to put them in the quotes. So we want star for the first one, and for the second one we want hash. So for the padding, okay, now let's check it if padding works well. So you can see we've padded it. So because precious is already 8, it now added 2. Precious is 8. If you count it, precious is 8 characters plus 2. That is what makes it 10. If I want it longer, I can say 20. 20 will now make it long. 20. You see? So it, for the pad start, it puts star before. That is 12 star. And at the pad end, it puts 12 hash. So guys, that is how padding works. The next one is repeat and replace. So repeat and replace is what we use to remove, or you can use it to duplicate, okay? You can use it to duplicate. So using test1, repeat. Let's say I want to repeat my name. So let part 16 is equal to what? Test1 class precious dot repeat. And how many times I want to repeat it? Let's say 10 times. That seems like a lot, but so that we can see what we're doing. So let me delete this last console log. I'm not using that. Check the console. As you can see, precious has been repeated countless times. It repeated it 10 times, I think. Yes. So that's how repeat work. If you want to repeat something, you use repeat. It creates a copy, continuous copy. All right. Also, the next thing is replace. So for replace, let's use test2. JavaScript is a great language. So let's change this to JavaScript is a great programming language with replace. So replace is how you remove and how you put in a character or a string to replace something else. So let's call this part 17. I know the video is long, but please bear with me. If I don't do this, it will be hard for you to find people who will do this for you. So if there is something confusing, go back, and if you want to recap, you can always pause and rewatch, okay? But at least know that you can always come back to this to learn this. So to replace, it's simple. We're using test2. So I want to change language to programming language. So we will replace what? We will replace language to what? To programming language. That's just what we want to do. So to replace, get the variable, replace, look for the character. I want to replace language. It will check for language and it will change language to programming language. So let's console log part 17 and see what we have. What do we have? JavaScript is a great programming language. Just to clear your confusion, let me console log test2 itself, the variable test2, so that you will see the difference and you see what we replaced. Test2 was saying JavaScript is a great language, but we use replace to remove language and change it to programming language. I intentionally make it capital letter L so that you will see the difference. Now, what if I make this capital letter L, but what we have here is actually small letter L for language? Will it work? Well, guys, I don't know. Let's see. It didn't work because it cannot find it. So for you to make it find it, you have to use what we call regex, regular expression, and you have to put a flag. So the flag we will put is just to tell it that please, that is please. So let me duplicate this so you have a copy of that. So I will comment this out. That one still works. You can always uncomment it. So if I want to use regex, so if I want to search for maybe all language without respect to what's it called, the case, I will use regex. So what am I saying here? I'm saying go into pressure. Sorry, it's I. So I means in regular expression, it means insensitive, case insensitive. Go into test2, look for language. It doesn't matter how it is written, capital or small letter, and change it to programming language. Let's see if this works now. Now you see, guys, this works, okay? Take note. Last but not the least, converting string to array. We will do this a lot, and I told you before, JavaScript sees strings sometimes like an array, but it is important that you change it to an array properly by yourself, okay? So string to array, and for this, let's use our JavaScript is a great language, or I don't know, let's use test1. So to convert a string to array is actually very simple. Very simple. And all we need to do there is just to split. So you use split. Okay. So to split, you have to know where you are splitting from. So we have space here. Let's split with the space. Let's change test2 to an array. So I will also keep test2 here. Then let's create a new part. Let's part 18 is equals to, sorry, see, no space in your variable name. Let part 18 equal to what? So we want to split. We will split at where? We will split at so we will split test2 split where it has what? Space. So anywhere it has space, return the array for us. So there's 18, part 18. But I want to do something else. I want to show you something. Let's part 19. So let's do this for the first one. Test1 dot split. You know, Precious is just one name. There's no space in between. So let's see what we have. So part 19. Let's reload. So I'm also going to console log Precious so that you will see the difference in what we've done. So reload. Can you see, guys? So the first thing was, the first variable we had, value, was JavaScript is a great language. Then we said split everywhere you have space. Okay? So everywhere you have space, it started with JavaScript. You see, JavaScript is a great language. It gave you an array of 5 values. Each values was where there was space before. I also did it with my name, Precious, which is close together. Okay, I did this. You know, there is no space, nothing in between Precious. Look at it here, nothing. It's just Precious, one long sentence, one long word. So because of I said go in there, because there is no space, that's why I did this. Then it went in and broke my name into an array. So it broke it into an array, Precious. Okay, so that is it, guys, on JavaScript string methods. We've done a lot here. I'm sorry that the video is long, but I had to do these explanations well for you. In the next video, we'll talk about something better, the data type numbers. But for now, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Precious out.